starts working.
It's over the booth.
Good evening and welcome to the Portsmouth School Board, Tuesday, January 10th, the year 2006, here at the Portsmouth City Hall Chambers, Portsmouth, New Hampshire. This time I'm going to ask for the superintendent to call roll.
Regarding attendance this evening, please. Raymond Bowles. Here. Nancy Novelin Clayburgh. Sherry Ham Garrity.
Here.
John Lyons.
Here.
Brendan Restano.
Here.
Mitch Schildman.
Here.
Carson Smith.
Here.
Ann Walker.
Here.
Andrew Canassi.
Here.
Linda Brolette.
Here.
Ann Mayer.
Here.
Kent LePage.
Here. In a moment, I'm going to ask us to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and the flag, and I'll ask at that time that our new business administrator, Steve Bartlett, lead us in the pledge. But prior to that, as we stand for a moment of silent reflection, we're sad to say that Sparky, one of our janitor's fathers, passed away this past week, and hope we can keep Sparky, who's a hardworking individual, up at the high school. Keep him in mind that his father has passed away. Also, let's also know that how fortunate we are to have the community we have, as we just come out of the holiday season and our own schools gave so much back to our community and other communities in much need. So I'm going to ask you all to rise for a moment of silent reflection and then have Steve lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Under item 2, we have a number of secretaries' reports to approve. Approval of the minutes of December 13th, 2005. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. Discussion in regards to the minutes of the December 13th, 2005. Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Item 2A, December 21st, 2005, minutes of that meeting. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Seeing no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Under item A3, January 3rd, 2006, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion in regards to the January 3rd. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Under correspondence, the only thing that we have, and for new board members, we get it on a monthly basis, is that of the menus for the elementary schools, the middle schools, hot lunch programs. Keeps you informed of what we're doing there. And also a good way to remember what days you have off within the school system. Even though you're on the school board, I never can remember when my kids ask me which day we have off. So it's the only way I can remember. Any other correspondence to be brought forth tonight, Dr. Lifton?
You have none, thank you.
Okay. At this time, do we have anybody sign up under the public commentary session? Patty, did we get any? Nope. No, nobody signed up under public commentary? Nobody. Seeing no speakers, that's item 3. We're through that. On item 4 tonight, recognition of staff and students. Bob or Steve, any recognition of staff or students? Seeing none, that moves us to item 5, personnel. Steve Z. We have Steve Z and Steve B from now on, officially at the table here. As an update on openings that we will have, it was in your packet tonight. It's a number of things that are coming on up. We have a number of retirements. And Steve, would you go over that?
Yeah, this is just a list in your folder of the anticipated openings we have at the moment, mostly due to the retirements that we expect this year, and they are broken down by school and grade level. And you can see there that we have a number of openings that we anticipate. We have begun the process of advertising for that, wanting to start early and get out there. As we've said before, our interest is in recruiting, training, and retaining the best teachers we possibly can. And so we are focused on that and moving forward with filling these, hopefully, with plenty of time before the next year.
I realize you all just got it tonight, but are there questions in regards to the individual departments and/or schools and so forth? And this is a nice way to keep you updated. What you will get for a continuous basis is between now and early September, when we start, as they interview and they start to fill these positions. We are very fortunate in Portsmouth that we have not had empties or locations that didn't dragged on for at least 3 years now, so we've been very fortunate that way. And again, over the next couple of weeks, I think actually further down in tonight's, Bob's going to give us a little bit of an update on the technology solution update, which sort of falls for the district-wide technology director, so Bob will give us a little update on that in a little bit. Any questions in regards? Yes, Ann?
Thanks, Kent. All of the positions that are posted the 22nd of November, are those all positions that we know are retiring faculty?
These are all retirements, yes.
They're all retirements, but the 9/15 technology director, that's not a retirement.
The technology director is a position that's open, and I'm going to report on that
But it's not-
tonight as well as the
okay.
24th. And then at the bottom, the elementary principal is New Franklin School.
Right, that's New Franklin. They're looking for.
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, so these are all retirements.
Yeah, these are all retirements.
Correct.
And actually, the technology director is still an outfall from when Ed Stokel
Correct,
retired on
right.
out, and we've tried a few things, so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Ken?
John,
Bob or Steve, what is the English/social studies position? What does that look like? I didn't know we had somebody that did both of those disciplines.
Actually, that's Cal Scarponi, and he teaches 2 English classes and 1 sports literature, social studies. And we're going to look at that to make sure, because of highly qualified
Right.
teachers, we're going to look at that and decide whether we can continue it that way, or whether we need to change that. But that will really depend on class size and the numbers of where we are in each
Thank you.
department.
other questions for either Bob or Steve in regards to this? Any other personnel business to be brought up tonight? Seeing none, that moves us to item 6. Committee reports. There are no committee reports. I will say, and I'll jump down, I wasn't quite sure where we put this. There are, I have, and I think Patty can confirm for me, I think we've got everybody's assignment sheets back. I will be going through that and then confirming both with Nancy and Bob on your choices. The only one that I needed to fill because of meetings coming up is the Joint Budget Committee, which is the group that works with City Hall here and all department heads. And I sit in on occasion, but it is an early morning 7:31. It is one that I felt more comfortable after talking to Nancy and Bob and Steve this afternoon, that we probably wanted to have people that have been in there this time, and can be fluid over the years, but is that I will reassign John Lyons and Ray Bowles, who have served on that. Charlie Vaughn was the 3rd member on that, because we are allowed 3 members on this, and the 3rd one will be Nancy Clayburgh. So that's the only one at this time that I had to fill. The others I'll be going through and getting back via Bob and Patty between now and next Tuesday. And I appreciate everybody getting that in to me, and we'll try to meet your requests, your number 1 request. It looks like it's quite possible, by the way, with a couple of exceptions. Ray?
I was just going to comment that the incoming mayor has made it very clear that he hopes to use the Joint Budget Committee as a forum and a entity to get things going in his first year as mayor, and I'm very delighted at that because, among other things, I invited him to come to the meeting of the Joint Budget Committee so he'd understand what it was all about. My comment would be that from the mid to late 1990s, when the Joint Budget Committee was first formulated, and which was then under the general chairmanship and thing of Alex Hansen, at that time our assistant mayor for many years, and of course, with the quiet collaboration of our city manager, John Bohenko, the Joint Budget Committee had become a very, very useful forum in which we could all understand the particular needs and wants and desires of the other departments and get some bearing on it. Unfortunately, when some of the councilors who on the last time were brand new, and one of them has now become our mayor, they stepped in with a percentage increase prematurely. And we had the dickens of a time, as you all know, in the school department, as well as the other departments, but we're only responsible for the school department, thank goodness. We had the dickens of a time to make it come up and around and about and up and down in such a way that we could sneak by because we got severely wounded. The impetus of this little speech, which I didn't plan, was to make sure that the current school board, as well as administrators of the school department, understand, if they agree with me, that the Joint Budget Committee is going to be our best forum to communicate in the first instance with the citizens of Portsmouth, along with the other departments, so that with energy costs soaring and the impetus of negotiated teachers thing, which incidentally was a wonderful thing that they agreed to continue this for another 2 years, which is a great thing, gives us stability. But anyhow, when all is said and done, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the time, and I know I've wandered verbally, which I try not to do, but on the other hand, this is a golden opportunity to work with this particular new mayor, who has now endorsed the Joint Budget Committee as his principal forum. And the technology and the kind of things that have taken place in the last several years means that we have completely and totally up-to-date information for the city at a moment's notice, which does include the school department at a moment's notice. Why is he sitting over there? Okay. But in any event, I feel quite excited about it as an old-timer here, because it can work, it has worked in the past, and it should work again. So I encourage everybody on the school board and those associated with the staff and so forth to rev up a degree of enthusiasm for what I believe, at least, is a new year starting in the right way. I'm glad that you put me back on the Joint Budget Committee. I'm delighted you put John Lyons on, and of course there's just nobody like Nancy Clayburgh, and so we will represent, with your permission and your appointment, very adequately the school board or the school department in the discussions of the Joint Budget Committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Again, a lot of the consideration also comes because of job commitments and so forth, being at 7:30 in the morning, that those individuals were ones that in the past had been able to do that, and again, having some past history, and that doesn't mean that next year we might not look at it a little bit differently, but again, it's moving, and we're in process. Also, a couple of you have left off negotiating committees. We will probably assign those just because 2 years may seem a long ways away, but it's not. It's a year from March that you actually have to be on that. And that's when the discussion will be coming, not this March, but a year from this March. So we will put you in those places, so we're ahead of the ball, don't get behind our contracts. So that's committee reports. Item 7, new business, teachers' contracts. Dr. Lister.
This is an update for the board that Mr. LePage, Mrs. Clayburgh, and I will be attending the City Council meeting on January 23rd to talk about the teacher contract, which is on the agenda that evening, that you unanimously approved, and we are hoping that the City Council will do the same.
And I think it should be pointed out, this is an extension of the current contract that the teachers worked very hard with the administration that allowed us not to have to be bogged down, and again, I think it's a good deal for both sides, and I believe the council will also see it that way. other new business to be brought up at this time. You want to give an update on
Yes.
the headline that we've had recently?
Yes. This is also informational, but you know that there has been some discussion about maybe thinking out of the box with athletic director and including recreation director as well. I've had several discussions with Mr. Bahenko, and we are in the exploring stage, and I emphasize exploring stage because this is not in any way a done deal. There have been no negotiations. There have been no discussions about what the job is or what the pay might be or anything, but we are talking about doing something that's quite different than a lot of other communities, and that is the possibility, the exploration of combining the position of athletic director and recreation director in the city, looking at community athletics. A couple of reasons why we are talking about this, and this is a collaboration fully, that we're looking at feeder programs for athletics, and we're looking at sports teams, the competitiveness of sports teams. We're looking at the number of students who are and children in the community that are actively involved in recreation and sports. And I think we all agree that it would be nice for parents in the community that have young children to know that what the possibilities are for recreation and athletics from, say, preschool, starting with t-ball, all the way up to varsity sports and everything in between, because I think this recreation department offers many, many different activities for young children and young adults, and with our athletics at the high school and the middle school, as well as the elementary, we have basketball and soccer teams. Looking at that as one big picture. But I emphasize this is only exploratory. Nothing will take place until we come back to the board with a proposal, and we'd like to do that. And it's been an interesting conversation, but that's where we are at this point, is just a conversation.
John?
I want to, I have some questions and concerns about this with an open mind, but I want to congratulate both the superintendent and the chairman of the board, and perhaps even no, she's shaking her head down there. I was going to give her some credit, but then I will say the superintendent and the chairman of the board to think outside the box and to explore other possibilities that might exist, and the openness and candor that you always bring to every decision. I look forward to discussing those issues here. So thank you for exploring these issues, and I look forward to discussing them. Thank you.
When Nancy and I met in our pre-meeting with Steve, and Bob this afternoon, we were able to tell them that what direction. Bob, you have a meeting coming up with both the city manager and Rusty in the near future, and after that, putting something to come back, because any step will have to be approved by the board before moving forward, and then also on the other side, the council will have to approve on it. So it's a lengthy process, but I believe during this budget session it will be one that it will allow us again to cultivate and give the taxpayers the best and actually a maybe more beneficial program for the children if all works out. So I appreciate that update, and Bob will keep us updated in the next couple of weeks. Okay. Other questions regarding? See none. Oh.
No, I didn't have a question about that, but I just wanted to.
Under new business?
Before you move.
Go ahead. Under new business?
Mr. Chairman, I would rely on you to tell me whether it's appropriate at this point in time to bring up what I bring up, so, since I'm new to the board.
We'll correct you if we have to.
That's what I mean. There were a couple of things that I was thinking about that had been talked about at previous board meetings before the new members came on that I'd like to talk about briefly and then ask for some information from the superintendent and assistant.
Go ahead. And what we might do, because Mitch, I know you and I talked, is we might move them to next agenda if they need it. Administration needs to go. But go ahead. Under new
one
business.
I remember when the special ed director talked to the board just a few weeks back and presented the case and the story about special ed. And the thing that really hit me was the comment that it was going to need board communication with the public because of the issues related to special ed. So one of the things that I realized that I don't understand is it would be helpful for me to be able to look at each school to get a sense of what kind of, where special ed sits in each school, the number of students, and sort of a grid by category. So at least, because I feel that if this board's going to be responsible in some way for communicating to the public issues that relate to that, because I got a sense from that presentation that budget is always going to be a problem, and people in the community don't necessarily really understand the day-to-day of what takes place, that it's incumbent upon me to learn as much as I can, because I intend to sort of talk to people about it and help in that communication. So at some point in the future, if we could have a graph or a chart and a grid by building, so we have a sense of what the categories are, and maybe even a brief definition of the categories, or you can point me in a direction. I can find it myself.
That's fine. I think under that one, there are a couple places it could come under a next agenda, but I'll ask them to comment whether that's already going to be broken down under the budget books when we get it that way, or is there maybe a grid type, as
Yes.
Mitch had pointed out?
Actually, thanks for asking the question. Our plan is to, since that meeting, Paulette Hoflick and I and Mr. Zadravik have also been working on some with pie charts to show you
Yeah,
what
exactly.
schools have what percentage of special needs students, because we're also doing that with English as a second language students.
Okay.
Most people don't know that at Dondero School, for instance, there are between 11 and 14 languages of students spoken there. So we want people to understand that and what the implications of that are, not only for teachers, but just in general. So we would like to provide that information with you. I'll try and have that done by next meeting. But also, when you get your budget books, which we're going to talk about in a little while here for the budget, it'll all be in there as well.
Okay.
Okay?
We'll give you so much information. Sorry you asked.
And it does get Mitch down in the number sense, and when I say the number sense, I don't mean the dollars, I mean by the students in each school.
Right.
We have an excellent presentation by, Bob just brought, he stole the thunder there, the individual, huh?
Paulette.
No,
Iggy Wan?
yes, Igawon. He comes in and explains all the different languages. It's-
Right. Oh,
we're
that,
one-
sure.
For percentage-wise, we're one of the highest in New England for the number of languages. Basically because of the high tech and so forth, it
Right.
brings in a lot of things, so.
That's great.
Again, it comes together a little bit, but if Bob can get something by the next meeting on the 24th, that'll be great. Next, you had another question?
I'll wait till the next agenda issue.
Next agenda, you want something on the next agenda? Okay.
think so.
Yep. All righty. Any other new business to be brought forth, Bob?
If I could just, we probably should have done this before, but this is kind of new business. This evening, we have with us the 4 new elected board members, and I'd just like to acknowledge them coming to the table after a long period of observing and reading information about and fulfilling quite a big learning curve to be on the school board. And we have Sherry Ham-Garrity, we have Carson Smith, Dr. Mitch Schildman, and Brendan Restano. So we welcome them this evening to the board and to the table.
This is the first one, and it seems like it's going fast, and it is, but you better savor the moment, because there are nights it is far from this fast.
It's not over yet.
No, it's not over yet. Could be. Under continuing business, we have the board retreat on Saturday, the 21st, 8:30 to 3. I keep mixing up because don't forget, it's also a week where we have another long weekend because I guess there's there's a teachers meeting. So again, it's a week from this Saturday, 8:30 at the high school.
Send these back to me.
And yeah, if you have not sent this back to Bob yet, please do. Because he has this week to get it ready or collate them and all. Any other continuing business to be brought forth by anybody? See none. Steve Bartlett, under financial, the December 2005 financial reports.
All right, I spent the day in the office today and got a little background on how we do APs, and was able to talk to Peter, and
They're in your packets if you didn't know that tonight. I believe they're in your.
they're in the
Over here.
the auxiliary folder, if you will. And I will get more familiar with the details as we go, but basically looking at the percentages and talking to Peter and looking at some of the spreadsheets that he left me. The only real area of concern as of this point is one of energy and what's going to happen when winter really hits and the bills for the heating start coming in, because the price of natural gas is twice what it was last year. So I'll be here full-time on the after the 23rd, so I'll have much more time to delve into the details also as part of the budget. The only other thing I'd like to point is if you're looking down at the percentages on the first page, you'll see under workers' compensation, 174.36%. That's a matter of timing. There is a refund that's going to offset that and put it back where it belongs.
Questions regarding the budget to Steve? Again, it's a lot to do.
I was just, you mentioned energy, and I didn't know if the school department has taken a proactive approach to looking at rebates. As the energy crisis, energy prices increase, natural gas goes up, stuff that we can do now, so that way when it comes February and March and we're, saying, well, we need to get more money for energy, has there been anything brought to the table on that?
It would be too soon for me to tell, seeing my attendance has pretty much been limited
That's
to board
okay.
members and a few work sessions at the office.
Yeah, I'll speak that. We buy ours in advance. We actually, spot market it, I guess is a way to actually say it. We're buying it at our rates are even, I forget, I saw them recently, are fairly low compared to what homes are doing right now, because we buy it in a pool with other areas. So we get the lowest possible rate, but even that is more than what we paid a year ago. I believe I don't dare say I believe we're still below the $1.90 mark, which I know most people are above the $2.40 for the natural gas. Majority of our buildings are in natural gas, and we do have some other forms of electricity and so forth that again, that's bought in pools and so forth at times. So rebates and a lot of that get looked at. We actually, for the last, I believe it's 3 years, somebody can correct me, we've actually done so well on our electricity cutbacks that Public Service has come back and given us a check 3 years in a row as a rebate. Usually it's been about $58,000. They can come again. We're not going to shy them away. They've come back because we've taken conservative measures in. When we built the high school, I think that one actually was a lot higher than the 58, but everything else that we do, Public Service does do a rebate program. But always looking for ways. That's what Board Retreat will have a lot to talk about. And when you look at it in the budget, you'll actually see that, and Steve will be able to point that out. And there are things that can be done. There are always things. But again, we pool it, and I don't quite, we do that with the paper supplies too, just to let you know down there. And I think there's some big trailer somewhere that everything is for all the 117 schools in the state of New Hampshire. They keep it there and then they dish it out or something. I don't know how it's done. Steve, you'll probably have Peter giving you a hand on that real soon.
Yeah, when we talk today, it's part of what he's doing is pulling some stuff out so that we can put together a more comprehensive look on what we think the energy and the fuel usage picture is going to be for the rest of the year.
If it doesn't snow, we don't plow. Save a lot of money. And disappointed kids. Any other financial business to be brought forth to the Portsmouth School Board at this time? Questions? Seeing none? Yeah, we do have the,
Is that the budget?
we have the Portsmouth School budget completion dates. I'm going to have Bob just go over these dates at this time.
In your packet, you have the budget completion dates that start from October 26, 2005, when we first started meeting with the budget makers, and up until March 9th, which we have, the board approves the budget and sends it to the city manager, and everything in between. You'll notice that our plan is to, on January 24th, next meeting, is to give you a narrative about the budget from Steve Bartlett and myself. On January 31st, which is the next meeting, We will plan to make sure the board receives their budget books, and that's a big loose leaf book that has all the budgets for all the schools, every budget that we are accountable for. And you'll have an opportunity to look through that. And beginning on February 2nd, February 7th, February 9th, and the other dates, you'll see every Tuesday and Thursday. Our plan in the past, which has worked, is for us to have budget meetings every Tuesday and Thursday for several weeks here, and have the budget makers come in. For instance, one night the high school will come in, another night it will be athletics, the next night it'll be all elementary schools, another night it'll be grounds and maintenance, and until we have exhausted all the information that you need. The purpose of those meetings is for you to read the budgets before, become familiar with what the requests are, and to be able to ask questions of the budget makers. So you get all the clarification you need so you can make some informed decisions later on about things that we need to fund and things that you might have questions about. We have no information from the city about any increase or no increase, so we're basing this at this point on what the requests are. So we do have a fixed cost items that you'll look at. You'll see that. And Peter Torrey put the budget book again for us, together for us, and I really appreciate that because he did, as usual, he did a great job with that. It's very easy reading. It's kind of it's very understandable for everyone, and I appreciate that. But it will give you an opportunity to be able to become familiar with all the different line items, and for us to make some decisions and ask budget makers who have put these budgets together questions about what they're requesting. In addition to the fixed costs, there will be some items that are personnel that will be reflected in a different part of the budget, so you'll see what kinds of positions people are requesting in addition to the fixed cost. So, and we'll talk about that. So there'll be an orientation to that as well. But this has seemed to work in the past, where we've given everyone an opportunity on Tuesday and Thursday, and for an hour and a half, a couple of hours, to be able to go through a particular budget area, and so you have all the information. And Mr. Chairman, I have a note that I've made to myself here. On March 9th, 2006, that's when the budget apparently is supposed to be finished and sent to the city manager. Our next board meeting is March 14th. I would like to request that we meet sometime the 9th and the 14th for the purpose of looking at teacher contracts. Teacher contracts will be due
15th.
On the 15th. And rather for us to look at those the night before and make a decision, just in case there's a snow night or it's bad weather or something, I'd like to be able to have a few days lead time so we can address that if we need to. So I'm asking that, and we don't need to plan that right now, but if we, maybe at the retreat, we can talk about that.
Okay, that's a good idea. And just to update the new board members, is that on March 15th, two things have to happen. One is we have to have teachers' contracts. That's every teacher gets a contract or doesn't get a contract that gets approved by the school board. That means we get them in blocks along with the administrative contracts. They have to be approved for both city mandate and state mandate that allows them to be approved and that they know that they have a job for next year. We have held contracts in the past, or when we didn't know what budgets were going to be, but it's a very uncomfortable thing. We try to get the majority of them done. We were successful until last year, where we held a total of 28, I believe it was, that we held contract-wise. Hopefully we don't do that again this year, but we have to have them agreed and voted on by the board no later than the 14th, because they actually have to be ready on the 15th. The other thing, Ann?
I just wanted to be sure that the No Child Left Behind highly qualified teacher issue will not be a concern at this time in terms of contracts, since they have until June to deal with their paperwork. Is that correct?
Yes, just so everyone knows, we have just a handful of teachers that need to work on a house plan or finish taking the praxis, which was their choice. And we are confident that long time prior to March 15th, all teachers in the Portsmouth School Department will be highly qualified.
By when? I'm sorry?
Before the March 15th.
By March 15th,
That's,
prior to them getting a contract.
they don't need it till June 30th, I believe, is the date by the by this state, and I want to emphasize this state.
This state.
Don't get confused, because it's not the same in Maine, it's not the same in Massachusetts, and it's definitely not the same in New York, from what I hear. I think they voted it down.
Excuse me, so do you know the number of teachers that are taking exams and the number of teachers that are doing the house plan?
Yes, we do.
Is that something you could share with us in the future or now?
We could probably tell you that right now. Do we have a handle on the exam? I'm not sure about, but maybe I can ask Mr. Zadravec.
Yeah, some teachers are still determining what route they'll take to achieving those. So, right now we know of a couple that are taking the exam, but it might be as many or as 5 or 6. But the total number of teachers involved probably won't be over 10 or 12. An exact number still depends on how some people's transcripts and some of the work we do to analyze that experience people have, but it should be definitely a manageable number.
That's very impressive. I just want to say, because I've been doing some looking on the web, and I think Portsmouth has a lot to be proud of. That what I found was, and you can correct me if these numbers are wrong, but I found that almost 62%, or over 60% of our teaching faculty have master's degrees, which is way above state average and way above national average. I think Portsmouth has a lot to be proud of. And you guys have done a great job for that, because people come, they stay, they get further education, and they stay. And that's a nice thing.
And Dr. Schulman, that's one of the things that is a very good statistic and something we're all very proud of. But that's one of those statistics that helps us get grants, foundation grants and other things, because it shows that we have a stable population, and there's some credibility that goes along with that, and lifelong learning kinds of things. So thank you for bringing that up.
Other questions? The only other thing I'm going to point out on this budget calendar is that the school board many years ago implemented early on that it would have 2 public hearings, one towards the beginning to allow the public to have input, and that is during a regular board meeting about the budget. So we hold that as a public hearing. A public hearing is not the same as public commentary. They come on up. There's not a time limit such as on a public commentary where you only have 3 minutes public hearing. They can bring ideas, they can bring thoughts, they can bring their complaints, they can bring their accolades, whatever they want to bring. The thing is with this, we ask for the public is not to talk about individuals. This is not about, an individual evaluation period. It's not to talk about a certain person or anything. That's the only thing in both these public hearings that they can and will be gavelled down on. But this is not a time or a place for them to talk about individuals. They can talk about programs, and they can talk about improvements, and we've done very well. I believe we are in our 8th year of allowing double public hearings for this, and it's paid off. Unfortunately, unless you're cutting a program, usually the mic is empty. And I emphasize at this time and ask everybody to make sure they come, because just like last year, we didn't know what was coming. So come and support, or come in and give us any criticisms that you think that we can use during this budget process. But again, there are 2 opportunities for the public. Seeing no further questions on the school department budget completion dates, we are now on item 10, next agenda. You have something?
Yeah, but again, this may be the kind of thing that could be answered here or now, but I want to just go back to the highly qualified teacher issue. I'm glad to hear we don't have many teachers, but I have to admit I'm still very confused about exactly what is required, particularly of elementary school teachers, because I've gone online to the New Hampshire School Board Association. They have a letter up there from their lawyer, and I read the letter that Commissioner Tracy and the NEA president put out, and it doesn't really answer my question in my mind, which is for elementary school teachers who are already state certified and they have a bachelor's degree. I was under the understanding, and if you read this, that they don't need to do anything else to be highly qualified, but in fact I've learned that they do have to do something to be highly qualified. So both of these pieces of paper really don't jive with one another, and they don't make it clear. So what's the answer?
Steve?
Well, it's certainly, and I met with one of the faculties this week, and the way I put it is the dust seems to be settling a little bit around HQT and what are the requirements. What came out in the last month was that the state had gotten acceptance by the federal government for what they considered the state-level house plan in relation to elementary teachers. And what that meant basically was if a teacher had a certification, which requires the bachelor's degree and all that, then they would be considered HQT to meet the HQT standards as long as they had 3 years of experience and gone through a recertification cycle in the state. And that immediately brought a huge sigh of relief, as you imagine, to most of our teachers. But we do have some teachers who fall in that less than 3-year category and who will then therefore need to do something else. So along with that letter came what they called the house plan for elementary teachers for local districts, and therefore a process for teachers to go through. And we're going to meet with teachers individually and go through that with them, and it's not going to be a burdensome thing. Because the other thing that was demystified was, what does that look like? And so now we have a clear example of what that looks like, and we can go through that with teachers.
What the house
Process looks like.
Okay.
And again, it all comes back to some evidence of mastery of the content, competencies, the 4 basic content areas for elementary teachers, which, again, we've never had questions about. It's just now getting everybody through this process. And so that basically takes care of everybody.
I just want to say, the reason I bring it up, and it doesn't relate to anybody in this district, but many of my friends are educators in both university and K-12 level. And I know of a person, for example, midlife, mid-40s, 15 years experience in municipalities, double undergraduate degree, a master's in urban planning, a master's in education, and at the age of 40-something becomes a teacher, the kind of people we want to become teachers. And here's a person who has to prove that they're highly qualified by taking an exam. And I think that's the far example of what is the biggest insult about that whole process. I understand that this ruling made it safe and nice for a bunch of people, a lot of people, in fact. But I still think that there are people who are being treated unfairly in this issue, and I just wanted to bring that up.
Steve, go ahead, and then I'll just...
And I was just going to say, we recognize the way that it can be, felt, and certainly the message we've been sending and want to continue to send to people is we'll work with anyone to get them through this. Right. It's not going to be as if anyone has to go and be out on a limb on their own to get through something. We'll help people. We'll support them with time and with the resources they need.
And I appreciate that.
And just, Steve, like I said earlier, there are 50 states and there are 50 interpretations of this by 50 different Board of Educations throughout there.
Right, no, I understand.
And even within states there are sometimes I know that right now California, somebody happened to know out there from the State School Boards Association I met, along with one in Nebraska, are trying to devise, an understanding throughout the nation and send a massive email. Right. This is very similar of what happened when Nancy and I were just talking about with No Child Left Behind, and the interpretation by each state has been different, right. And the feds have given us that latitude, but we report back. So, John.
Thank you. This has obviously been a significant issue, not only discussed here at the local level, but we talk about it all the time at the State Board of Education level as well. And there has been an absolute commitment at the state level to deal with this issue. And the Commissioner of Education approached the federal government with the proposal that was ultimately prepared with a great deal of pessimism from a lot of stakeholders. And the Commissioner was successful. And what I always like to say is that this is not a waiver. He did not propose that our teachers in this state receive a waiver under the qualification of HQT, but that the training that our teachers go through, by that very nature, are highly qualified. And his proposal was essentially adopted. To go beyond what Kent is talking about, there is a movement afoot by a number of the small states, including Nebraska and New Hampshire and a number of other states, and there's lots of initiatives supported by the federal government to begin to look at average yearly progress and HQT, so that these concepts that, you know, if you ask somebody, are you in favor of peace, everybody is going to say yes. Do you believe we should have highly qualified teachers? Yes. Should students meet average yearly progress? Yes. But the problem is what the practical effect is. And in large measure, the No Child Left Behind was an urban legislation that has unintended effects that well-meaning I mean, you have Teddy Kennedy and Judd Gregg, who are main sponsors of this bill, who are at opposite ends of the political spectrum. So I think the good news is that there is an understanding, not only here local level, which it impacted us first, then at the state level, but at the federal level as well, that these issues have to be addressed in a practical way, and they are. And I'm very pleased to say that New Hampshire is in the forefront on all of these issues, and I think will come to be seen as a model nationally dealing with these issues based on the experience that local communities have, because one of the things we have in New Hampshire that we pride ourselves on really is local control, and we can take that experience and share it across the nation. So I will be sure, Mitch, that as we discuss these issues, we have an all-day State Board of Education meeting tomorrow. I'll come back and report and make sure everybody here knows what's going on at the state level as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, John. Any other agenda items? And that will be one that will be ongoing right through probably July meeting as we discuss what teachers might or might not make it, but it sounds like we have very few, and it sounds like we're working with those that aren't quite there yet. Any other next agenda items? Ray?
Oh, you said next agenda items.
Yeah, anything you want on the next agenda?
I was waiting for other.
Okay. Also, just a quick thing under next agenda items. If you have something, please either get it to Bob or myself, and it may not be on January 24th necessarily, but we will get it up as soon as possible. And as we go into budget, some things lay dormant until the second meeting in March. But if you have something that you feel needs to be on the 24th, please let Bob or myself know, and we'll work with it. Bob?
Mr. Chairman, I have two items. You mentioned the technology director before. What I'd like to say about that is that we would like to make a presentation to the board next board meeting about where we are with the technology director. You know that, in a nutshell, you know that we did not hire any of the people we interviewed for that position, decided to wait until the spring. But in the meantime, we pulled together 26 people in the district for what we called, it was kind of like our Apollo 13 group. That we went into a room for a day and from different backgrounds, and we decided that we needed to come out by the end of the day with a plan, and we called this technology solutions for this school year, and we would like to share that plan and that solution with the school board and the timeline next time we meet. So I'd like to do that.
Question?
Ray?
That would have been one of my two other things. Can I ask him a question, please?
Certainly may.
Okay. Does that mean, Dr. Lister, that for this particular school year, which we're now halfway through, that you're going to have an organized ad hoc method of dealing with technology?
That's correct.
Program.
Right. We called that our technology solution plan that we're going to present to you, the board, and on that timeline is in the spring, hiring a technology director for next school year.
Okay. All right. I have another item later on, but that's exactly what one of my items was. Yeah.
Okay. My second item is the next meeting on the 24th, I believe. Sherry Weston from the middle school and the Association of Portsmouth Teachers will be here to talk about the proposed school calendar for 06-07 and 07-08. So we'll talk about that as well.
No others next agenda items. I have Nancy, then Ray for other. Yeah, number 11. other.
I don't know if we already announced this. I think we may have, but we have new board members. I just want to congratulate our school board representative, our student school board representative, Andrew Kanachi, for his early acceptance at Princeton University.
Wow.
In Princeton, New Jersey. Andrew, without mentioning names, could you just tell us some of the other colleges that some seniors have been accepted to?
Within the class of 2006, so far we've had an acceptance to MIT, acceptance to Vassar University, Colgate University. I'm trying to think offhand right now. I think Catholic University, the Philadelphia University, Wentworth Institute of Technology, University of Chicago, and those are all that I can think of offhand. But so far we're doing very well.
Well, thank you. Again, congratulations. That's quite an accomplishment. You make us all very proud, Andrew.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nancy. Ray?
Yes, I have two items on my other. One has disappeared now with the knowledge that the technology director was going to be on the horizon here. I wanted to repeat what I said just before the holidays, that I personally am absolutely, totally gratified by the attitude of our Teachers Association in terms of how they went about and then decided that they would agree without any extensive negotiations to a 2-year extension of the present teacher's contract. I think that is unheard of in this day and age. And I said it before, and I want to say it again. And you see who I'm looking at over there. I think it was great. The other thing, hopefully, is a little bit humorous. My knowledgeable new friend here, Mitch, asked me a couple of things about being a school board member, including did we get paid? And I said, well, yes, we do. I mean, sort of. And then in turn, it turns out that he doesn't really understand it. He's a knowledgeable, sophisticated man, as you can tell tonight, okay, as to how to go about getting on the payroll. So in turn, I'm assuming that you will have a method, Dr. Blister, or maybe Mr. Bartley when he is organized here, so that in turn they can make out their W, whatever it is, and get started on it, right? I hope that's treated with humor, but on the other hand, he did ask me, okay?
You make better out at McDonald's, so look out.
Dr. Schildman, a check is in the mail.
Yeah, you do get paid. It's by what are considered the mandatory meetings. It's broken down in a payment schedule per month on it. It's a nice token. Any other business to be brought for? Before I forget, I'm sorry, Andrew. I'll grab you 1 second. Patty, do we have enough policy books yet to be created? We ought to. That's one thing that we.
We will get them.
Yeah. Between now and February 1st, we'll make sure, maybe even before the board retreat, if we can get them done, so everybody will have a copy of the policy book. So when referred to policy, you don't have to bring it to meetings. Absolutely don't. It isn't something you need to bring to meetings, but it is something that you need at home to refer to, and it is good bedside reading. Andrew.
Just to make a quick announcement on behalf of the Portsmouth High School Junior World Council that we will be holding our annual talent show at the high school on Thursday at 6:30 p.m. So if anyone's available that evening, just want to make the board aware that there will be many talented students out that evening. So I'll provide some comedic stylings of my own. They might not be as good as Mr. Bull's, but I'll certainly make an attempt. So
This is this Thursday?
this is this Thursday night at 6:30 at the high school. So all are welcome. Just wanted to make the board aware.
Thank you, Andrew. Dr. Lewis, you have one final item for us?
One final item. Monday, January 16th is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. There will be a celebration all day. There'll be a City Year celebration at the middle school. Mr. Stokel and City Year and the United Way are very involved in a day of sharing and caring and volunteering. We have many of our students who are involved in that day. We also have a breakfast in the morning that you have signed up for, and so this is just a reminder. And we are anxious to have everyone participate. We do have several students who have written essays for the Martin Luther King Coalition. I understand we do have some essays that have been chosen as outstanding, and they'll be read that morning. And so we're looking forward to the celebration.
Thank you very much for that update, and hope those can attend. I know schedules are busy, but it's always nice, and it's nice to hear the speeches as I have in the past. Any other business to be brought forth to the Portsmouth School Board this evening? Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Moved in second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously.